overview just for anyone that wasn't here, but I believe part 1 is on YouTube anyway, so if you want to catch up in reverse, you definitely can. Okay, cool. Actually, let's just do a quick test. Who can remember which number leader Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji was? Singh? 13. Not 13 at the back? 12th, good. Bonus point, Singh, you ready? Can you remember who the 13th was? Wow, 14th? Well done. Good. So Sant Giani Singh Ji, who most of us probably have heard of, they were the 14th leader of Damdami Taksal. 2 prior to them was Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji, who can remember the nickname for Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji? Vade Mahapurash, yeah? Which means the biggest Mahapurash or bigger Mahapurash, but like the granddaddy Mahapurash I call them. Okay, brilliant. We looked at how their birth was prophesied. There was a bachan from Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj 200 years, 300 years prior in the pind of around Jamkaur Sahib of Lame Jatpura, where Baba Amara Ji and Mata Sevi Ji did a lot of sangat of Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj and did seva Guru Sahib and the sangat there after the Battle of Jamkaur. Utthe Dod Shikaya Si Maharaj nu and Fir Maharaj ne bachan kita. And they said that there will be a Brahm Gyani that comes in your lineage, and there will be a Raitawan Gursikh, someone that has a lot of love for Sikhi, and they themselves will be liberated, but they'll also take many, many with them as well. And we hear from this bachan that the birth of Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji was not just a normal birth, it was someone specially sent down to leave a mark in our itihas, bring a lot of people back onto the path of Sikhi, and with Guru's Kirpa, we're still talking about them today. Okay, we also looked at how much bhakti and how blessed their parents, even their Tayaji, who was their Santhya teacher, the sheer amount of time and effort they had put into Sikhi prior to Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji being born. Just a few highlights was regards to Baba Roor Singh Ji, their father. They would every day read a minimum on top of their Nitnem of Sukhmani Sahib and Akal Ustat. For any of you that aren't quite aware as to what those parts are, they generally each take an hour long each. So you can imagine the amount of, they're doing at least 4 or 5 hours of Part, Bhakti, Simran, meditation every day on top of the standard stuff. And we see about the Savala Kamul Mantar, and even their Mata Anand Kaur doing 25 Japji Sahibs and a Sukhmani Sahib every day for 13 years. So this was the caliber of parents that were required, if you like, for such a great being to take birth. And we discussed last week about how we heard the Sakhi of those great souls, those Shaheed Singhs waiting to come down. However, one argument is that the houses to hold them and nourish them aren't ready yet. So we to discuss a little bit about what we need to do in our own jivan so that the next generation can be of a very high caliber. We talked a little bit about how quickly they picked things up. From the age of 7, they were a Ladivar Akhand Party, which means they could read Akhand Part from Guru Granth Sahib Ji at a very, very quick, fluent speed, which was not normal for a 7-year-old by any means. And also we hear about instances where they left their Akhand Part Sahib, went to sleep, and carried on the part from exactly where they left off for 30 minutes without leaving one akkar, one letter misplaced. So we see from such a young age glimpses as to what was to come. We talked a little bit about Sant Sundar Singh Ji, who was the 11th leader of Damdami Taksal and the one that nurtured Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji, if you like. And a few of their experiences as well were Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji's daily routine, just the sheer amount of Gurbani and Seva they would do on a daily basis, and sleeping very, very little as well. So such was the level of this Gurmukh, and as a result, the effect they had on the Sangat as well. So just carrying on, we left off with a few of their experiences, and when they did 40 days job at Jamkaur Sahib, which is where the Battle of Jamkaur took place, that famous battle of 40 versus a million, they experienced, and due to their meditation, due to their bhakti, they went into a different realm where they actually met the souls of the Shaheed Singhs and had a conversation about Khalsa Raj, when this rule of the Khalsa will come. And there they had a conversation with the Shaheed Singhs, and they discussed about two major powers coming together, each with four smaller parties. There'll be a huge war, a lot of the population will be killed, and a Muslim will come from the west, face the army of Singhs at Panipat, and at that point, the course of history will change and the Singhs will take Khalsa Raj. So very interesting insight as to what the future holds. When that comes, I don't know, but that's how it will play out. And let's see, it might even be in our lifetime if we're lucky enough. So going forward, another experience. Sorry, did anyone have any questions from last week or anything? I wanted to recap before we moved on. Everyone good? Everyone had a good week? What's been good about your week? So I just asked everyone, did they have a good week? Everyone went, yes. I said, what's been good about your week? Everyone said nothing. Hanji. Oh, badaiyan. Bole so nihal sat sri akal.
The last one that we came to is me who asked that question.
WhyGuru. Was that on Saturday?
Yeah.
Kirpa ji.
Yeah. Sunday. No, it's Sunday.
Okay, Kirpa ji. Anyone else? Wow, amazing. Congratulations, Benji. That's amazing. Mara Kirpa rakhne.
How do I know?
Oh, handy. I remember the question.
I'm not completely cold, but I needed it, I think.
Kirpa, no, we all do. Good. Brilliant. Well, I hope you all had a good week anyways. So in terms of this thing really stuck out to me, and this experience really reflected the scale as to the seva that Vade Mahapurash took on and was still benefiting from today. So while speaking to a few of their close things, they would often share experiences they'd had whilst doing seva, whilst doing simran, and including darshan, or physically having met some of the Guru Sahibans. So experiences where Guru Nanak Dev Ji, Guru Gobind Singh Ji, or the Guru Sahiban took a physical form and came and met them and blessed them, and the experience that the bliss that they experienced as a result. And in one such case, they told Bhai Kartar Singh Ji Premi about a dream in which Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj gave them darshan, came and blessed them with their presence, and Guru Sahib came on a horse with a lot of other Singhs, because Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj was very happy with Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji, the seva they'd been doing, and the amount of effort that they'd been putting into their Sikhi. And very interestingly, someone we mentioned about earlier, Sant Atar Singh Ji, another great Mahapurkh that came in quite a desperate time in India and got many people back onto the path of Amrit. They said after Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj passed on their Koda, and the other Singhs passed this, so Sant Atar Singh Ji also approached them on a Koda, and they handed over a bunch of papers, a small Granth if you like, wrapped in a kapda. And they said that these are the Sampradai Arth passed down by Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj themselves. Keep them safe. Now just to explain what that is and also translate a little bit as well. Sampradai means technically means to pass on, but the word Sampradai is used for any organization within Sikhi that has a lineage back to the Guru Sahib's times. So you have the Taksal Sampradai, you have the Dalpan Sampradas, you have the Nanaksar Sampradas, etc., etc. And the Arth means meanings. So when we learn how to read Gurbani, we also learn the Arths as well, the meanings of Gurbani, as well as the Santhya, how to pronounce it. And at this point, Sant Atar Singh Ji, bearing in mind for any of you that are unaware of Sant Atar Singh Ji, they weren't alive at this point. So they were also visiting, their soul was visiting Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji in this dream, accompanying Guru Gobind Singh Ji and those other beings as well. And they basically gave a khajana, a treasure chest of all the arts, all the meanings of Gurbani that had come directly from Guru Gobind Singh Ji. And that's what we call the Sampradai arts. The arts that have come down from that instance in Damdama Sahib, in Sabo Ki Talwandi, in 1704 and 1705 and afterwards, when Guru Gobind Singh Ji, after all of their battles for 9 months, took time with the 50 Singhs that were there and went through each art, each meaning of each word throughout Guru Granth Sahib Ji, and they were scribed down and passed on from generation to generation. So that was passed on again back to Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji, and we can have full faith as a result of this little encounter that we read about in their biography, that the Katha, the Parchar that Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji was doing was in line with what Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj's mission was, and was fully in tune with that. And generally, if any of you have taken Santhya, or any of you have learned Gurbani art, there's always a few arts. So one line of Gurbani has many, many meanings, because Gurbani in itself is endless and limitless. But a good teacher will always start with the Mukh art. And the Mukh means the foremost, the top. And not like sometimes you have Mukhis of organizations. And the Mukh art is the art that has been passed down from what we're hearing from the times of Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj. And it's really important actually on this note. Sorry, the tea is really good. I don't want it to get cold. Someone smashed it in the langar today. So it's really important, especially in today's age. There are a lot of people that give their opinions on Gurbani, a lot of people that give their views on Gurbani. We even heard recently on social media of people saying that, oh, you can jap any mantra you want, you don't need to do WhyGuru mantra, whatever resonates with you is cool. And we're hearing a lot of this, or you do whatever part of Sikhi you want, or you do whatever feels good for you, because Sikhi is about you. It's not really, it's about the Guru, and it's about you following the Guru. So let's not get that mixed up. When we're learning art, it's important that we do follow this tradition, because otherwise things get very, very murky. And any good teacher who's teaching this art will always reference at some point the Mukh art as the foremost, to say that this is what is established within the Panth and from Guru Gobind Singh Ji's time. However, there are other interpretations as well. So it's really important we keep that as a base. And if we just go off our own interpretations, then that becomes a bit of a bottomless pit. So something just to bear in mind as well. And if you read any good steek, so a steek is like a transliteration or a translation of Gurbani that breaks it all down, they'll always say Mukhart and then like Atwa or something else after it. There's quite a lot there. Does that sound okay with everyone? Okay, cool. Please do ask if there's any questions. You can just put your hands up throughout. Okay. Yeah, of course.
When was he around then?
So the 1900s, so I can't remember the exact dates. If anyone does, please do remind me. I think it was mid-1800s. Hanji. Yeah, so at the time of British rule, there's a really interesting story about King George actually visiting Delhi at the time. And they asked all the heads of religions to come to Delhi, and there's like a big parade. And at that point, Sant Atar Singh Ji came, and they brought Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj on an elephant. And it was basically, it outdone everyone else, because Sant Atar Singh Ji wanted Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj to have the most satkar. And after, when they went to go and meet Sant Atar Singh Ji, it's written on the British records that King George, I believe, said that this man has the light of God in him. I can physically see it. So such was the level of Sant Atar Singh Ji's, even that chehra. So another great, great Mahapurakh. And it's really interesting that in the realm of Mahapurukhs, the Mahapurukhs all know each other as well. They link up and speak to each other. Hopefully we get there one day. But I found that was really interesting as well. And Mahapurukhs will pass on messages to other Mahapurukhs through darshan and dreams, which is really interesting. And quite powerful that there are these powers that be that we don't even know about. Just a few things on their humility. As mentioned, they had a very big padavi, a very big status, the leader of the Damdami Taksal. And as we talked about last week, small labels get to people's heads very, very quickly. But whilst we're talking about all the loud things Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji did, it's important to understand the quiet ones, the humility, and the thing that kept them such a great Gurmukh as they were. I mentioned this to a few of you last week in the Q&A. But just a small glimpse, as they were at a train station once, they were running late, and in the hustle and bustle, someone must have pushed Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji to get out of the way, to move forward. And the Singhs obviously grabbed the guy, and they were about to smash him up, they were about to beat him. And at that point, Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji said, "Anu rehan diyo, ki pata lag gaya, pichhle janam shayad main takka marya anu." That who knows, in a previous life, maybe I pushed him, he's just repaying the debt, leave him, don't worry about it. Nowadays, if you even look at someone weird, they start pulling their karpan out. So let alone pushing people out the way. But such was the level of Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji that they didn't hold on to things, they didn't have any hatred, they didn't have any jealousy, and they always saw the goodness within people. Another quite funny story is we talked about Calcutta last time when they went and the Maya came in for many, many years, right? So the second time they went back, there was a new Granth at that Gurdwara. And for some reason, the trains got delayed and Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji came much earlier than the rest of the Singhs of the Jatha. And when they went to the Gurdwara, they said, Giani Ji koi manja hega mainu. And the Granthi didn't know who Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji was. They said, Babio, Vade Mahapurash khaun lag gaya, tusi thalle jaake baijo. But they didn't realize it was Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji themselves. And at that point, they sat on a bori, a little mat, you know, like the alu mats that you get. They kill your ankles in the Gurdwara. They sat down there and they just took it as it was. And then the Singhs came later and the Singhs huddled around Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji and the Granthis thinking, ki ho gaya, like all these Singhs, they're sitting around this Baba, who's this old Buzurg, let me go and see what's going on. And then they went into the huddle of the Singhs and they said, Singhu, like, Mahapur kani aaye hale? And they said, Mahapur ke bethe. And at that point, he just fell to Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji's feet and said, I'm so sorry, please forgive me, I didn't realize it was you. Nahi manja de dana si. And at that point, Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji's reply was such that they said, Koi gal nahi, you still gave us a bori to sit on, no problem, you still gave us something to sit on, no stress. Whereas nowadays, if you think about people that come to the Gurdwara, or even the way MPs are expected to be treated, let alone people in Sikhi, people outside of Sikhi, the way that we accommodate people and bend over, if you like, for them, compared to what a true Mahapur, a true saint, what their expectations are. They're happy with whatever the Sangat provides. And I think this is important for us to think about going forward in terms of bootlicking, I'll call it, especially with elections and stuff coming up. The classic one is Boris Johnson talking about how great Sikhs are because of the sharab we drink in a Gurdwara. And we're trying to get the start on these geezers, getting them to make prasad dena langar, all this mad stuff. So something that comes to mind on that point was the leader after Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji, Sant Kartar Singh Ji. And you see from these true Gursikhs, these true Gurmukhs, they don't care about who's sitting in front of them. It's black and white, and Guru is always prominent for them. And I'll take you back to a time, the 300th anniversary of Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Shahidi Purb in 1975. There was a really big program in Delhi, and there was a Darbar Sahib. And at that point, when Indira Gandhi came into the Darbar Sahib, everyone stood up out of respect for Indira Gandhi. Now, as we know, in a Darbar Sahib, if Guru Granth Sahib Ji is there, no one else gets respect. Simple as. And no matter who comes in. And Sant Kartar Singh Ji was the only one that stayed, one of the few that stayed seated. And Indira Gandhi came up and said, oh yeah, you know, Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji saved India and all this kind of stuff. And after Sant Kartar Singh Ji came on and just ripped it. And they said that if Indira Gandhi thinks that she should get respect in the court of Guru Granth Sahib Ji, she's mistaken. And they said that even if if it wasn't for Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, Indira Gandhi would have a burqa on her head. He said this in front of over 2 million people in Delhi. And they said, if it wasn't for Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, we'd all be saying Salaam Alaikum to each other. And then they went on to say, in the fearless manner that they would do Parchar, that if Indira Gandhi cut her head off as many times as there are hairs on her body, and she still kept saying thank you that many times and bow down to Guru Sahib that many times, she would not be able to pay the debt back. So she shouldn't come in here expecting Satkar. Rather, she should know her place and give Satkar to the Guru. And after that, the Sangat went ballistic and just let off Jakari. But imagine Rishi Sunak came to a Gurdwara, and the Pradhan of the Gurdwara ripping Rishi like that. This is the caliber of our leaders where they were, and now it's like Rishi, you know, Jo Marji Aake The Kali. So very interesting to bear in mind and inform our decisions in organizations Gurdwara going forward as well. Obviously, don't be rude to people, but also when people try and step the line, we need to let them know what we're about as well. At another point, they were asked to become their Jathedar of their Akal Takht, which is in essence the leader of the whole Panth. Because the Panth was in quite a dire time at that point. There was a lot going on and everyone realized that Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji is the main man. And at that point, that same Jathedari that people would fight over today and even probably kill over, people would be desperate to have. At that point, Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji said, look, I can't take it. Sant Sundar Singh Ji, my teacher, have given me a very clear mission. If I take on the Jathedari of Akal Takht, I'm not going to be able to nibar what they've given me. So that comes first. So such was their humility that they didn't think they were too big for doing Parchar. They didn't think they were too big to abandon the initial mission and go on to the biggest jathedari, if you like, of the Akal Takht. They stood true and they didn't let the fame or the seat get to their head. Again, things that we just don't see in today's world. After finishing a full katha of Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji in Layalpur, which is now Pakistan, after they got off the stage, they did an announcement to all the Sangat. Now, normally what happens after you do Samapti of a katha is there's gifts given to you, you're given a saropa, your vawa's done, everyone celebrates you, right? But Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji, after finishing a katha of Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj, did an announcement to the Sangat and the Singhs to say, Singhu, I stay in your Sangat. As my duty is to impart vidya to you, which is knowledge, if sometimes I've got angry with any Singh or said anything that may have offended you, you are the Singhs of the Guru. You keep rahat. Please accept me as the slave of your feet and forgive me. So after doing a whole katha of Guru Granth Sahib Ji, they then went and said, look, I've made so many mistakes, and even whilst teaching you, I would have made many, many mistakes. Please accept me as the slave of your feet. And when I was reading this, I thought about teachers. I'm a qualified teacher. I left teaching a year ago. And I know from the students I used to speak to, and many of you probably had those teachers that would never admit they were wrong. And it would just cause so much bange unneededly. And all you have to do is just hold your hands up and say, galti hogi or whatever. But some teachers are so teach that they will never give up their galti, let alone ask for forgiveness. And it was really interesting. When I was at school, I very quickly normalized making mistakes. Like in the maths class, if I made a galti and someone pointed it out, I'd be like, thanks for letting me know. And you just normalize it, and the respect you get from the students is tenfold. And the lack of classroom problems I had as a result was minimal. And I just thought about this in terms of, obviously I'm just a mere minor maths teacher or whatever, but this is the teacher of Guru Gobind Singh Ji's Taksal. And if they're lowering themselves at this level, then it speaks volumes of their character. And I guess it's important for us to understand as well, when we go forward, if any of us are privileged enough to teach Santya, teach Sikhi, do a talk, whatever it is, remembering that if Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji can acknowledge any mistakes that they may have made, spoke to someone in a wrong way, then who are we to not do that as well, right? Myself included. So very, very important things to keep us humble and examples to live by as well. Did I mention this last week? I did. Oh yeah, I skipped forward. Okay, Tika. So again, a few instances where Guru Sahib themselves came and organized their affairs, organized their carriage of whatever Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji were doing. And we see this with many, many Mahapurukhs. And Sangat, don't think that because we're talking about Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji, who was the past 78 years ago, these things are just reserved for them. The power that they accessed, the blessings that Guru Sahib gave them, they're on offer to us as well. The only difference is what they're doing compared to what we're doing. But if we make an effort, everything I'm talking about, there's no reason. We have the same Guru, we have the same access to the Seva, we have the same Shabads. These things can definitely help and direct our lives as well. So one instance was in 1942 where there was a shortage of ghee, sugar and atta. And at that point, the Singhs, the langar was running very, very, very dry, and there was 100 Singhs to feed, and everyone's getting worried. The langar went down to twice a day, once a day, and then people were thinking there's going to be literally, the langar will go mastana, it will run out. And at that point, after Katha, when a few of the Singhs went to Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji and said, Mahapurkh, there's no langar left, Mahapurkh said, keep Rosa and the Guru. Guru Sahib will organize everything. And all the Singhs are thinking, we're about to starve, and you're just like, don't worry about it, right? What's going on here? And a few of them got a bit annoyed and couldn't really understand the level of faith Guru Sahib, Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji had. And the very next morning, after the Katha at 8 a.m., so a day after, there was a Singh called Bhai Sarvan Singh, and he came to Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji, just handed them a 500 rupee note. Now 500 rupees back then is obviously a lot of money. Now it doesn't get you a lot. And they said, what's this for? Sanu koi lor nahi, we don't need Maya. And at that point they said, no, Mahapurkh, I have to give it you. And they explained that his brother, Prem Singh, was stuck in Burma, and he did an ardas to say that, Maharaj, if you get me home, I'm going to give 500 rupees to Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji in the Jatha. So that ardas puri hogi, and at that point, when the Singhs needed langar or maya for the langar, Guru Sahib consoled everything together and made sure that there was no lack of anything. And there was a very similar instance when I was thinking about this at the time of Banda Singh Bahadur. So for any of you that are unaware, Banda Singh Bahadur was given the leadership of the Panth after Guru Gobind Singh Ji to go and actually take over Punjab and avenge the deaths of the Sahibzade and anyone else that had become Shaheed. And as they were along, so they left from Hazur Sahib, which is the south of India. As they're making their way around Delhi, which is kind of mid and slightly closer to Punjab, so much Sangat that started joining them, so many Singhs started joining them because Guru Sahib sent Hukamname to everyone to say, Banda Singh Bahadur is on his way to Punjab, everyone meet him and take back Punjab. And when they got to Delhi, around that area, around Agra I think it was, they ran out of all supplies because obviously moving that many people, feeding that many people was a huge problem. And Guru Gobind Singh Ji gave Banda Singh Bahadur 5 Singhs. So they gave 5 Singhs as a council, if you like, as leaders and as the form of the Guru. Just like when we go and take Amrit, we have 5 Singhs in the form of Guru Gobind Singh Ji, the leader being Baba Binod Singh. And at that point, Banda Singh Bahadur said to the 5 Singhs, Tusi ardas karo, you're the form of Guru Gobind Singh Ji, and that's it, we'll leave it in Guru Sahib hands. If Guruji wants us to get to Punjab, then they'll sort it out themselves. And the next morning, there was a bunch of Sikhs called Vanjare. Now, Vanjare or Vanajara is a trader. And they had been stocking up, generally they're quite rich as well. They had been stocking up the Daswand for many years. And that week, they had got a hukamnama from Guru Gobind Singh Ji saying that Banda Singh Bahadur is on his way and whatever supplies you can give to him to see deal. So that whole group of Sikhs brought all of their Daswand to the Panth at that point, and Guru Sahib fulfilled the Singh's Ardasa. And it was that injection of maya, of food, of langar, of shastar, of kore that actually got Banda Singh Bahadur from Delhi to Punjab to go in Punjab. Just of 100 years ago, these examples existed throughout our history and will continue to exist as well. I'm going to ask a personal question to you all, and you don't have to share, but it's always nice looking at current things as well. Has anyone had instances in their lives where Guru Sahib mysteriously has organized things for them and you wouldn't mind sharing?
I think
Ben?
sometimes things just happen when you think, you want something to happen.
Yeah.
You ask for something, and then it really does happen.
Can you
You know what I mean?
can you be more specific or example?
Can't think specifically, but I can say that there's been things where I've gone, I wish this would happen or something like that, and it does.
Hanji.
When you're not expecting it.
Okay.
If you know what I mean.
So not necessarily the time you expect, but when it's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Benji, did you have one, sorry?
Yeah, I can't share the actual details.
Sure.
But broadly speaking, financially, if I'm ever struggling, I've come to a place now where I feel like I don't need to worry.
Hanji.
Because Maharaj is going to send something, some form of help in some sort of way. So, and I've seen that repeatedly throughout the last 10, 15 years. So yeah, definitely feel that.
Kirpa. Anyone else? Hanji, Benji.
Recently,
Sorry, just a bit louder.
recently, my son, he suffers with a blood disorder called ITP, and he was in remission for a couple of months, but then his it's a low platelet count, and they'd gone down to 0 again. He'd got blisters in his mouth, bruising,
Wow.
and bleeding under the skin and so on. So for a few days, I was at my lowest point because I was so worried.
Yeah, of
It's
course.
the same condition that my dad had when he passed away. And there came a point because I couldn't really, mentally I was already exhausted and not in a good place. And I got to a point where I thought, that's it, I'm just going to leave it all to Maharaj. I'm not going to even think about it or worry or anything. And that was, that seemed quite easy to do. And as soon as I let go and left it to the Guru, And I started manifesting, and I'd have these visions every time I did a das that the gurus are there to protect him, and they're showering him with platelets. And I continue to do that. His platelets have gone up.
Kirpa. Amazing.
Naturally, he was given medication, but he wouldn't take it because of all the side effects.
Yeah.
He decided he wasn't going to take it.
That's amazing.
Despite everybody sort of saying, look, you need to take this, otherwise you're going to get it.
Yeah, it's quite a lot of pressure, right?
Yeah, a lot of pressure, but he was determined, and somehow, just by a miracle, they've just started coming up.
WhyGuru. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And just on that note of bad health, it's important to discuss the other angle where sometimes we do ardas, but it doesn't come true, or what we have asked specifically, what doesn't happen. Because I think that puts a lot of doubt in people's minds, that Guru Sahib says that if we ask for something, we'll get it. And I'm not saying you won't, but I think it's important to understand that the way I've always gone about things and the way I've always been told to go about things is it's always best actually not to ask for specific things or what you think is best, because what you think is best might not be best for you, because we don't know what's best for us. So the best way of going, I'm saying best too much. The best way of going about it is saying, Guru Sahib, this is a situation, please bring out the best result. Or jo thanu paunda like tusi karao. So that's a little bit of advice that I had from another Gursikh, and it's always worked for me. And if you guys have heard this example, I apologies because I use it everywhere. I have had a few examples, instances, not as dramatic as that, but interesting in ways. So as mentioned, I'm a maths teacher. And interestingly, when I was in year 6, I applied for all the grammar schools. I flopped all of them, didn't get into anything. Went to a state school. And then when my GCSEs happened, I did really well, loads of A stars. Applied again for grammar school, got rejected. But then friends of mine that got worse grades got into the schools I applied for. And at that point, I was getting into Sikhi, I was reading Japji Sahib every morning, and I got a bit disheartened. I was like, what's this? This doesn't make no sense. So I got rejected from all the grammar schools, and then Mari Kirpa, I went to Nishkam, got into Sikhi there, ended up doing a master's degree, became a teacher, only to end up going back to teach in a grammar school, which I thought was quite interesting. But then, so if any of you know King Edward's in Aston, it's quite local, I trained there for a year, and I was really happy to get into that school because it's a great school, and I was teaching there, and a job opportunity came up at the end of my training year, and everyone was filling my ears saying, Tenu mil jana, everyone's already said you've got it. I was like, wicked, sorted, Maujahana. And the interview happened, and I came second on the day, and I was like, what's going on here? My life plan's over, I'm finished. And I just start thinking oh my God, what am I going to do? I put all my eggs in one basket. And interestingly, the other school that I worked at, which is King Edward's, the independent one in Edgbaston, there was a job application there the same week. And I thought, it'll be a nice day. I didn't think I was going to get the job. I go, let's go check it out, see what happens. I'll get a tour of the school, it'll be nice, whatever. So the interviews happened a day after each other. So the King Edward's Aston one happened. I came second. But what they said to me was, if anyone leaves, the job's yours. We're not going to re-interview. And I came second because they were replacing a head of department, and obviously I was a new teacher, so it didn't work. And I said, Chal theek or whatever. But I was still quite dukhi, and I was confused, Guru Sahib, I thought you had a plan for me, what's going on? All this confusion. And then I went to the other school, King Edward's in Edgbaston, had a really good interview, came home and thought, Chal, that was nice, whatever, right? The same evening, got a phone call to say I got the job, and I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. It's one of the best schools in the UK. Guru Kirpa, I got the job. I was over the moon. I remember I was having Linda McCartney sausages, mash, and gravy. I actually remember the meal I was eating. Anyways, and then I went back into school the next day to where I was training, Aston, and a teacher had handed their notice in. And they're like, Mandeep, congratulations, you got the job. And I'm like, nah, bravo, I'm all right. I'm going to an expensive school. And then I was like, oh my God, was this what meant to happen all along? And then they even tried to take me into office, say, you haven't signed a contract yet, we'll give you more money, whatever. And I was like, nah, I'm good. So it was really interesting, the whole way the thing played out. But then the icing really was the first day I started at the private school. Bhavan Singh, I don't know if he remembers this, Bhavan's part of the Kautak. You know? He emailed me saying, there's a boy from a school in Birmingham who wants an assembly on Sikhi, can you do it? I checked the school, and it was the school I got the job at. So then I found the boy, went to his class, grabbed him out. I was like, he's like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I work here. He's like, no way. Obviously, he's seen me on YouTube and stuff. And then he's like, sir, can we start a Sikh society? So the first day I started at school, we started a Sikh society, Guru Kirpa, and then we had Santya every week. Literally, there's more Sikhi happening in that school than the Sikhi schools. You know? And every year, I still go back to Dulangaran campus. My point being is, Guru Sahib wanted to take me there for whatever reason, but I thought the first job was the one, and it was the pinnacle. And I had to go through a bit of dukh to realize what was planned. And sometimes, like, you only realize at the end. So there's been loads. Guru Kirpa, I've been very blessed. I'm a very lucky person generally. And I've had so many instances like that. Obviously, it's all Guru Sahib's there. But it's nice to share these things with Sangat, because hearing things from history is one thing, but when you hear of like Flanna Banda, this actually happened to them, then it's a bit of evidence, right? Which we all need every now and again. Does anyone got any of those want to share before we move on? I appreciate probably a lot of personal things, which is fine as well. Cool. That's my life story anyways. Okay. And yeah, as Benji mentioned with the money stuff, it's important to understand what Gurbani says. And Guru Amar Das Ji Maharaj says that Nav Nidhi 18 Siddhi Pichhe Lagiya Phira Jo Har Hirday Sada Basai. So the 9 treasures of the world, status, money, all these types of wealth, Guru Sahib says they call them non-nidhiyan. Like Nid is referring to Nidan, treasure. And 18 Siddhiyan. 18 means 18. Siddhiyan are spiritual powers. And Guru Sahib says that Pichhe Lagiya Phira, that they follow Pichhe Lagde, they follow that person, Jo Har Hirday, Jo Jinane Hari Hirday Man De Vich Sada Vasai. He keeps WhyGuru in their mind at all times. And I always think of like a little diagram. If you imagine WhyGuru's at the top, and you've got us, and then you've got all these things in the world we're after, education, money, even family, a spouse, whatever it is. We always go across horizontally trying to chase those things. Whereas if we go to the person who's created those things, WhyGuru, then the products come as a result anyways. So it's go to the source, and whatever WhyGuru has will come to you automatically. And I thought that was really interesting. When I heard this Gurbani Pankti, it stuck with me. And I guess it's important for us to understand, rather than chasing after the gift, just go straight to the giver. You know? And as Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji's Itihas, as our small glimpses of this have shown, and especially in Itihas, there have been many, many cases where this has happened as well. There's a quick one of Baba Harnam Singh, literally of money. Sant Baba Harnam Singh Ji, Rampur Khera Wale, they were great Mahapurkh. They only passed away recently. There's a Gurdwara called Rampur Khera in India as well. They still do a lot of Simran Smagams and stuff. They were making the Guru Card. Am I connected to Wi-Fi? I'll show you a picture of them. Has it remembered the password? No, I don't think so. Chalo, anyways, I'll get a picture up after. They were making the Guru Card, and their Sevadar by Sant Singh writes this in the autobiography, in the biography of Sant Harnam Singh. They're writing it about them. And they say that when we were making the Gurdwara, we ran out of money. There was nothing left. Oh, what's going on here? Sorry, 1 second. They said that we were making the Guru Card and we ran out of money. So I went to Baba Harnam Singh, and said, Baba Ji, like, Mayadi Lora, we got nothing left. And at that point, Baba Ji said to me, by my bed, there's the open box. Ote jaake haath pa li, jinne load chahiye ya o chok li, par dekhna nahi. Go behind this box, there's a box by my bed, put your hand in, but don't look, grab as many notes as you need, and buy the itta, buy the cement, buy whatever. Now, obviously, if you hear that, you're interested, right? What's Baba Ji got stacked up behind his bed, right? So you go, and he does it, and he goes, as far as my hand went, there were just notes. And he stuck to the button. He took as many notes as he did, spent it, But then obviously it chipped away at him. He's like, I need to see how much is there. He goes, why does Babaji why has Babaji not told anyone about this money before? He went, and when he went second time, there's nothing in the box. And then he realized he made a galti. He went to Babaji, Babaji maaf karo, like I looked, I shouldn't have. And he goes, Babaji, when I put my hand in there, I literally, is so much that I couldn't reach his depth. What's going on? And they said, Sant Singh, Mari di kirpaya, jodo lord pendi, maya ayandi, jodo nahi chahidi, fir chal jandi. So they said literally, like, look, don't tell anyone. They told you not to look in it, janke. But whenever Guru Sahib, with Guru Sahib's kirpa, whenever we need maya, whenever we need money, it appears. I don't know what else to tell you. Whenever we don't need it, there's nothing in there. And again, so many instances of this. I could go on. There's one at the time of the Battle of Anandpur Sahib, before the Battle of Chamkaur. And in Anandpur Sahib, there's the Asthan of Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, Shaheed Ganj Sahib, where Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji's body was brought and cremated. Sorry, their cease. Their body was cremated in Delhi. And at that point, when Guru Gobind Singh Ji is leaving Anandpur Sahib, the whole Khalsa is about to leave Anandpur Sahib, Guru Gobind Singh Ji did a bhajan to say, someone needs to stay in Anandpur Sahib and watch this Asthan. And at that point, everyone's obviously thinking, we don't want to stay back. Like the whole Panth's leaving, there's a battle, the Mughals are going to come in, no one wants to stay here and just be at their mercy. And at that point, there was a Singh, Gurbachan Singh, and Guru Sahib said to him that you stay, you haven't got any family, you haven't got any attachments, I'm giving you this seva. And at that point, Gurbaksh Singh said, Maharaj, okay, I will. And then the Ustad of Gurbaksh Singh said, Maharaj, but how will he eat? What will happen to him? And at that point, Maharaj said, look, there's a gadda, there's a cart over there. Whenever you need food, the cart will always be full. Jodo marji hobe. And they said, when the Mughals come, no one will touch you. And at that point, Gurbaksh said to Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj, but Maharaj, how will I live without having your darshan? At that point, Guru Sahib said that in the morning, Sandhya Samay, in the evening, every evening after Rehra Sahib, I'll give you my darshan. I'll come here physically and meet you. And my darshan bakshunga. And what I thought was so interesting is if you go to any of the major takhts today, after Rehra Sahib, who knows what happens? What does every takht do after Rehra Sahib? Anyone? I bet loads of you have been. Shastra Darshan, they bring out Guruji's Shastras, right? And that in itself is a form of Guru Sahib. So I'm like, wow, even today Guru Sahib still blesses us with their vision after Rehras as well. So if you go to Hazur Sahib, you see like the small Kirpan of Guru Gobind Singh Ji, and I thought that was quite interesting. So there's plenty of examples in Itihas of this, and as mentioned, don't think this is just for history, this is for us to utilize in our lives as well, if we get the Kushi of Guruji. A quick example from Sant Atar Singh Ji's life actually. And this shabad is a really good shabad for anyone that's struggling. When I was going through quite a hard time, and I wouldn't say it was depression or anything like that, but I was really stressed. A Singh gave me this shabad and said to read it, and I don't know what happened, but things just got sorted out. And there's a Granth, I think Bhai Mandeep Singh Ji wrote it, about shabads to read at specific times. So this is a shabad that I keep close to me whenever I'm going through a stressful period. And in essence, it says that the whole world works because WhyGuru makes it work. So don't stress about anything. A lot easier said than done. So Sant Atar Singh Ji, when they went to Hazur Sahib, they went to the Godavari River, which is just by Hazur Sahib, and they were doing Bhagati. And they went 3 miles along the riverbed to do Bhagati. And they were there for many, many days. And the head Pujari, the Jathedar of Hazur Sahib at the time, just like we have Baba Kulwant Singh Ji now, his name was Bhai Nanu Singh. And in a dream, he had a voice to say, there's one of my saints doing Bhagati, unhone kei din nale kuch khada nahi, unnu ja ke langar chakao, in the river, in the Nadi. And Bhai Nanu Ji went 2 miles long, and they're like, ite koi dista nahi. Obviously, walking 2 miles is quite long, right? So they went back. And then the same night, they had a same voice that was shouting that and say, oi, thanu seva ditti tusi sambhali nahi. And then they replied to that voice saying, Maharaj, ਅਸੀਂ ਦੇਖਿਆ ਸੀ ਕੋਈ ਮਿਲਿਆ ਨਹੀਂ ਉੱਥੇ, and they said ਨਹੀਂ ਅੱਗੇ ਜਾਓ. And then 3 miles in the river Godavari, they saw Sant Atar Singh Ji just standing in the water doing Simran, and their body was starting to perish because they were that deep into their bhakti that they'd forgotten to eat. And at that point, when they disturbed Sant Atar Singh Ji got angry at them. Like, why are you disturbing my bhakti? And they said, look, Baba Ji, like, please, Guru Sahib themselves are telling me off. If I don't feed you, menu shittar pehne. So please, I'll langar chako. And then they shakad langar to Sant Atar Singh Ji. And this Sakhi reminds me of, where is it here? It's Jalam hai jant upayan tena pi roji de. That Guru Sahib saying there's everything in the water is looked after by WhyGuru. And I thought Sant Atar Singh Ji was even standing in the water, and Fevi Maharaj got langar to them, right? Which I thought was quite beautiful. Just moving on to the effect of, so we've looked at the personal experiences of Vade Mahapurash, what's happened in their life, the Guru Sahib's darshan of other Guru Sikhs as well. If we just move on to the miracle of their katha, the effect their katha, their bachans had on other people, again we'll get a small glimpse into the power behind the words that Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji would speak. And in 1949 they were doing katha in a village, Buttar in Punjab. And they were talking about the pap of dowry. What do you call it in Punjabi again? Chetapur kya? Hanji?
Daj.
Haan, daj. Hana? Like when you, dowry is in essence when you give money for a bride, right? You buy the bride, kind of. And they were talking about how much of a pap it is, especially like anyone that does or pays for that, there's a lot of dukh that they receive. And whilst the words that Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji was saying had such an impact, that there was a Bhai Fauja Singh, not to be mixed up with Shaheed Bhai Fauja Singh, this is a different one, stood up in the middle of the Sangat and just started crying. And he said, like, Sanu maaf karo, and Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji saying that you're interrupting the katha, what are you doing, Hana? And then he explained to the Sangat that I took 700 rupees for my sister's wedding. I took that dowry, and I've just heard the words you've said, and I'm so regretful, please forgive me. And at that point, Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji, in front of all the Sangat in the middle of the Diwan, said, bring your sister, bring their family tomorrow, and we'll get the whole Sangat to do ardas for you. And in front of that, he returned the money to the sister and the husband's family, and the whole Sangat did ardas. And then, at that point, they said, take Amrit. And they said, we took the dowry because we're a very poor family. So, Sanu Lord see. And then Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji said, if you need Maya, you see Amrit Shakalo, get Guru Sahib's Khushiyan, make the Guru happy, and you have no shortage of money. And within a few years, the whole family became very, very well off. Giani Singh Ji personally says that he knew the family, and they became minted basically. Another one was taking Maya, and the regret people had of taking money from Gurdwara. And in a different katha, Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji was saying the lekha, the baggage or the pap, the sin you get from taking the Sangat's money in a hidden way. Obviously, if you're being paid by the Gurdwara for something, that's different. But stealing money from the Gurdwara or the Sangat is one of the worst things you can do. And I believe Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj that even set my sons alight on fire for stealing money from the Gurdwara and the Sangat, right? So that's where Guru Gobind Singh Ji views that pap. And at that point, as Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji was doing katha, the sarpanch at the pind, like the leader of the pind, stood up, and he's crying, he's bawling his eyes out, and he says, I kept 1800 rupees from the Sangat, and I've just heard your katha, and Sanu bhi maaf karo. Like every day people would stand up and just basically ask for forgiveness after hearing the words of Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji and the power that it brought. And again, similarly, they brought that Maya back the next day, returned it to the Guru card, and everyone did ardas on their behalf. You also see the loving and forgiving nature of Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji as well, because if someone stands up today and said, oh, I stole 50 grand from the Gurdwara, we'd probably end up battering them, right? Whereas Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji acknowledges the problem, forgives, and also gets the Sangat to forgive them as well, which is a very, very big quality of theirs. Another interesting one was of a Gora who was studying in Punjab at the time, and he was actually reading Sikh Itihas, and he heard about the Shaheeds by Mani Singh Ji, by Taru Singh Ji, Baba Deep Singh Ji, and he said to his professor, I believe they were in Ludhiana University, And he said, I've read about all of these great Gursikhs, take me to go see one. And the professor's like, oh, damn. Like, where are we going to find someone like Baba Deep Singh Ji, Taru Singh Ji? And he's worrying that, like, I'm not going to be able to fulfill this guy's request because it's quite a big thing, right? And he says, at that point, they were in Nabba area, and the professor heard that there was a diwan happening. They didn't really know who Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji was. They just heard that they were quite a famous Kathavachik. And a Gurdwara of Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji's, they took them in Nabba area, and after they got to meet Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji in a room, and the professor went in, and obviously the Englishman couldn't really speak Punjabi much. So they're sitting in the room with Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji, and the professor said, like, Pochhala jo pochna, like, well, ask him whatever you want, like, they're here now. This is the person I brought you to meet. And he just remained quiet. And then he asked him like 3-4 times, and the professor's getting annoyed. He's like, I brought you all this way, and hontu, like, ko swal nahi puchda. And then he just said nothing. And then they left, and then the professor had a dig at him. He's like, look, I brought you this way. Why didn't you say anything? You wanted to see someone, you wanted to ask us some questions, but then you had the chance and you blew it. And at that point, the Englishman said, when I saw him, all my answers got answered. All my questions got answered. He goes, when I saw him, I had visions of the people I read about in our history, in your history. He said, that's why I didn't say anything. I didn't need to ask anything. Just by looking at his face, all of my mind's questions were resolved. And he said, through that man you took me to see today, I saw the Sikhs of your history. So that was the power of even just the chehra, the face of Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji, that even Gore could pashan the radiance, if you like. Another one on a drug addict. Again, these are 5 case studies out of probably 5,000, and many of the ones that we don't even know about. So there's a devotee of Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji, his name was Deva Singh. And Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji was coming to the pind of Deva Singh, and they invited him. And the brother's name was Deva Singh. He used to have tobacco, he used to have cigarettes. And the brother, who was a Gursikh, said, look, Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji is coming with a jatha, like, you should lay off the cigarettes for a little bit. And he was really big-headed. And he said, like, I'll smoke in front of them. I dare them to try and stop me. So these were his initial words. And as they came to the pind, he was just standing outside the Gurdwara. And because in Punjab, the speakers, everyone hears the katha, right? And he heard the katha outside the Gurdwara about the bab of what we call jagat jute, of tobacco. And just from hearing the katha of Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji, from outside the Guru Kar, he stopped there and then. And he realized his mistakes. I'll come to that in a second. And this was what Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji mentioned from Saul Saki. They said, Marda dahata sapt kul pang dah tan ek jagat jhoot sat kul dah ninda dah anek. So in Saul Saki, which is a historical Granth that we hear about, we hear that Marda dahata sapt kul, Madra I believe is Sharab. Sapt kul, Sapt means Sat, Kul means lineages or generations. So that person that drinks sharab, they destroy seven generations. In a spiritual sense, but also we see in a physical sense as well, right? The damage that sharab does. They say that pang dahat an ek, that those people that have marijuana, pang, they destroy their own body. And there are people in the Panth that use excuses to drown themselves in pang, in marijuana, and roam around just high off their heads all day. That is not Sikhi. Jagat jhoot sat kul dah. Jagat jhoot, tobacco is called the whole jhoot. What's the English word for jhoot? The impurity of the whole world. That's how bad it's. The Guru Sahib has put it on, and they say that anyone that has jagat jhoot sat kul dah. So in this case, sat is referring to 100, a different art. They're saying hundreds of generations are destroyed by having tobacco. And the final, the worst one, ninda daha anik. The person that does nindya, that does slander, that speaks bad of people, the amount of generations they destroy, anik, you can't count it, is countless. So another thing just to bear in mind, even though we have the physical things we're told to stay away from, tobacco, drugs, alcohol, in our history and even within Gurbani, we hear that Nindya is worse than all of them. So even for us as quotation marks Gursikhs or people that take an Amrit, we can look at people that might be smoking or drinking or doing drugs, but then if we're going around the corner and speaking bad about them, we're 10 times worse off, even though we've taken Amrit. So it's really important to bear that in mind. Sometimes this look gets the better of us and we think we're better than we are, where it's actually meant to keep us humble and remind us of what we're meant to be doing. And as soon as he heard this gatha, he transformed instantly. He dropped his cigarette there and then and gave it all up and took Amrit, even to the point where he didn't have any case when he took Amrit. So he used to keep his ganga on a wire and wrap it around his head for 6 months until he had enough case, like a little gutti, and then he put his ganga in there as well. So we see people literally transforming their lives, changing their lives just from hearing one snippet of gatha from Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji. Okay, so we start looking towards the final days of Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji and the illnesses they came across. So in 1968, they were staying at Giani Pritam Singh Ji's house, who wrote this book, also known as Lakhari. They passed away this year. They used to live in Southall. And they had a high blood pressure, and their stomach started to fill with water. And the doctors said that we won't cut your hair. Let us do this operation. So we said we can do it without doing any biadabi of your case. Let us do this operation. And in the hospital, Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji said that you are all of the opinion I'm going to leave this world in a hospital. You think I'm going to die now? That's why you want me to do this operation. However, my ardas within the Sangat, this is the difference. You've got your parosa in this hospital. My parosa is in the Sangat. You're not doing this operation on me. I'm not going to go here. And they did the operation, and Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji carried on. However, the illness started to get a bit worse, so that a year later, they had a stroke and all these other things started to ramp up. And Giani Kapoor Singh came to Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji and they said, Mahapurkh, Sangat are asking, you're a great saint, you're a Mahapurkh, you're connected with WhyGuru, how can you get ill? If you've already got that connection, then surely you should be immune from getting ill. And it's quite funny, Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji said, are the Sangat asking or are you asking? And they had a bit of a laugh. That's a trick people use sometimes. If they want to ask a question, they'll be like, oh, the Sangat's asking. So you can use that as well. At that point, Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji replied by saying that illnesses are the duty of the body. And they affect everyone. They said, but my Atma, my soul, stays in the same Anand as when my body is in peace or when my body is in dukh. And as Gurbani says that sukh dukh dono samkar jane. Samkar means barabar. So that person, that a true Mahapurkh is someone that looks at pain and happiness in the same way. Aur man apamana. And honor, man, apamana, dishonor, it doesn't affect them. Now you might be thinking that sounds like quite a boring life. I'm not looking at dukh and sukh in the same way. It's not. However, as I mentioned last week, Sikhi is not boring. Taking Amrit isn't boring. And you don't have to just look at a wall all day. Guru Sahib acknowledges this as well, and they say that the Pankti I mentioned to you last week, Hasandya, Khelandya, Panandya, Khavandya, Viche Hove Mukt. Guruji is saying, have a laugh, wear nice clothes, eat nice things, and whilst doing all of those things, you still get mukti if you stick to the Guru's path. So Guru Sahib themselves are saying the Guru's path isn't meant to be boring. And Guruji themselves would laugh with the Sangat, make jokes with the Sangat. But the difference is, even though it's nice to have khushiyan, it's nice to have sukh, happy times, a true Gurmukh, and what we should all be aiming for is that whether we're faced with a happy time or a sad time, we aren't affected. That doesn't mean we don't try and find happy times. Of course, we should celebrate birthdays or go for a meal or come to the Gurdwara, go bowling, whatever it is you do. That doesn't mean we just become boring. However, if the happy times go, we remain the same. And when the bad times come, we still remain the same. Now imagine someone that isn't affected by a bad time or a happy time. That person's undefeatable. Because quite often, what are most the bange we have in life, what are the most the problems we have in life, it's because we're chasing happiness of some form, whether that's a job, whether that's a relationship, whether that's money. Now, if we chase the money or we chase the job but we don't get it and we're still happy, then nothing can change us, nothing can move us. So my idea of this is that we should aim and strive for the best things. However, we're not affected if something doesn't work out. And if something goes wrong, then we still stay strong as well. If that makes sense. That's the ideal situation to be in, right? You're chardi throughout. And when I was thinking about this, if you look at the Singhs in the Battle of Chamkor, when they're all fighting to get out on the battlefield, they're all laughing to each other, saying, I'm going to get further than you. Now, if you ask a random person, that's madness. You'd say they're lunatics. Because literally, there's a million people asking for their heads. They're guaranteed to die, but they're sitting there laughing, competing with each other. Why? Because sukh dukh dono sam kar jaane. There's no difference to them. They're just in bliss throughout. Whether death is looking at them in the face, or whether they're eating kheer or whatever else it is, right? It doesn't make a difference. And if we can get to that place in our lives, then no external factor can knock us down. And if we can get to that place as a pant, then we'll be killing it. There's some questions, sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, as a human being,
Yep,
is that actually possible?
100%. That's the evidence. Sant Giani Gurbachan Singh Ji.
But they were a son.
Okay, yeah. They were a son in a human being's body, right? So the way it's possible through a human being's body is by making our soul connect with WhyGuru, so that we go beyond the limitations of this human body and the human mind. If that makes sense. I said that really quickly.
It's just that it's so difficult. as a
100%.
human being.
100%.
So why has it been made so difficult? What, why do we have to reach? Why is it so difficult to reach that point, or almost impossible?
I would say it's different for a lot of people, because naturally some people deal with dukh a lot better, right? Just generally. So I guess the first part of how I'd answer that is to say that it depends on every person as an individual. And the reason it depends on every person as an individual is because we all have our own karam. We all come with our own baggage. So some people are already, if you like, at a higher saintly frequency. So it's easier for them to have dukh in front of them, not be affected by it, because they've already come with a bit of baggage that's helping them. Whereas some people are starting from a harder place, so it feels like it's impossible to them. That's why some people have it easier, some people have it better. However, the important thing to recognize through Gurbani, through our history, and through even Guru Sikhs of today, is that Guru Sahib is saying no matter where you're starting, it's possible for everyone through this path I've given you. And that's why it's really important. As you mentioned, but it is super hard. And sometimes you think, oh, Nani, it's not going to happen. But that's why we need to visit the lives of great Guru Sikhs like this regularly to make you realize that actually it's been done. I'm not saying we are at the level of Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji, but they obviously were very special in that sense. But even people that were drug addicts that came into Sikhi, people that are alcoholics that came into Sikhi, especially around the times of 1984, Pritam Singh, what's the name? Bhai Mandeep Singh Abhyasi, he heard a katha of Sant Giani Singh Ji at Muktsar Sahib, and he was a sharabi, right? He was an alcoholic. He left alcohol after hearing that one katha, joined the panth, and arguably got to that stage. So he's come from the depths of alcohol, and Gurbani's transformed him.
Would you say the Sant, were they living aggressively?
Yeah, they were married. They were married with a family. Obviously, it's slightly different to our Gristi because they were doing Parchar, they weren't stationed at home, but they had a family and everything. So like their Bhaiji, who's actually here in Birmingham, their grandson's actually in Birmingham right now. Yeah, so, and a lot of their family actually live around here.
I'm wondering whether it's different for men and different for women. It's just something I'd put out to the audience here.
I guess men and women are built differently, but in terms of accessing that level of Sikhi, I don't think there's any difference in that sense. No, definitely not. Definitely not. There have been Matawa that have, like Mata Gujari Ji, and even a lot of Singhni in 1984 that went through some crazy things, Bibi Upkar Kaur, and a lot of other Singhniya that also laughed in the face of death as well when that battle came as well. So I would say, yeah, men and women are built differently, but that doesn't mean the power Guru Sahib has given to a man is not accessible by a woman. 100% that whatever man can do, woman can do in that sense in terms of Sikhi and reaching that level. Hanji Benji.
Baji, I was going to ask, you know how you said that whether something good or bad happens in your life, you still have to like remain the same person?
Try our best to.
Isn't that like trying to say, like, since I've had like an end of year assessment at school, right, for history, it was out of 40, I kind of like, I didn't get the best score, but like it didn't affect me. Is it kind of like that then?
Yes, as in, you shouldn't think, oh, Sikhi says it doesn't affect me, so I'm not bothered about it. You can't do that. However, there's two options, right? One, you get so upset about it, you start guilt tripping yourself, and you just think you're crap at history forever. That's the part we don't want. That's where the dukh has affected you. However, that doesn't mean you don't take action. You should get the bad result, not let it affect you, but then let it inform you to say, okay, next year I need to revise. Do you get me? But then not spend 2 weeks crying about the bad result. That's the difference. Yeah, good question. Okay, we'll move forward. How are we doing? Okay, cool. Yeah, and as Gurbani says, Sukh dukh purab janam ke kiye. That sukh and dukh that we get in our lives, purab janam ke kiye, these are the consequences of past lives. So we are playing out the deeds that we've planted in previous lives. Even where you're born, the fact we were born into Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj's house, I would say, us guys in this room, and women in this room, are like the blessed of the blessed of the blessed. The fact that we have access to Sikhi, the fact that we're talking about Sikhi, the fact we're in a Guru Card, the fact we're in England and we have a roof over our heads, and generally speaking, life's like, it's not that bad, I'm assuming, Guru Kirpa. That's massive. If you look at what the world is going through, the amount of population that doesn't even have access to clean water, the fact that we've basically got everything, we must have done some crazy good stuff in our previous lives to have access to this stuff. Jo jane jin date diye, kisko dos dehe tu prani so apna kiya karara hai. So then Guru Sahib saying, whatever hardships we're going through, we planted them ourselves. And it's important to understand that. It's quite a hard pill to swallow, because sometimes your car might get smashed and it might get written off, and it's clearly Flana's fault. But then Gurbani is saying, actually, you've done this. And I guess when you start looking at life that way, it's easier to let go of resentment and hatred as well. That doesn't mean we're pacifists, and if someone slaps us, we think, oh, that's my fault because I must have slapped him in previous life. Obviously, we stand our ground, and if you need to give someone a jabir, give someone a jabir, but you're not attached to the situation, you don't hold enmity, you deal with the consequences, you move on. Obviously, a lot easier said than done. So, in the final days of Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji's life, they said that no place should be made in Lani. I don't want a jaga, I don't want like a memorial, nothing. And on the last day, again, I've missed a lot of details out, but just to summarize, on the last day, so Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji used to do 3 kathas a day. One of Ad Granth, one of Dasam Granth, one of Itihas. On the last day, they were doing Itihasik katha, and they had a stroke by now, and their left side had become quite paralyzed, I believe. And they were doing katha, their blood pressure was high, they were sweating, and Sant Kartar Singh Ji, who's reading the part there with them, said to Mahapurk, like, you're quite ill, should we finish early? And they said, no way, we're going to carry on. And that day, they did an extra hour of the 3rd katha of the day. And then it was that night, so that was the evening, and then Amrit Villa the next day, they passed away. So even the day before they passed away, they still nabad their seva, and went above and beyond. When someone said to them, let's slow down, they ramped it up even more. So they never let their maryada in terms of their seva buckle for one bit, even on the last day on earth. And one thing that stuck with me when I heard this is Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji used to say that Ram is haram. To rest is like a pop. That this life is so precious that we shouldn't waste an instant. Now, I'm all down for having downtime, yeah? I know I'm a normal human being, so I need to put my feet up and watch like a film every now and again. But at the same time, we shouldn't get too comfortable, especially in the world that exists. And I do believe in well-being. I'm a big advocate of well-being, balance, life balance, all that kind of stuff. However, Sikhi is built differently. And as well as taking the good things from the West, we should remember that Guru Sahib's told us we're here for a reason. So don't waste our lives with our feet up watching Netflix. We've got stuff to be doing. And when we see the lives of people like this, we realize they didn't waste a second. So if we can start walking on that path and slowly increasing the things we do, gradually we'll get to a much better position. So think about that in your lives. What are the things that you could quickly change out? If there's a Netflix thing you're binging at the moment, then is there something we can slightly let go of? Instead of watching an hour every day, why don't you watch 45 minutes every day? And take the 15 minutes to listen to a basic Sikhi video. Take the 15 minutes to go for a walk and just listen to one Japji Sahib. I'm not saying change your life instantly. You can if you want. If you can, great. But small incremental changes will amount to a huge overall effect. A lot of people, if for example, we did the Netflix example, a lot of people think, I can't let go of Netflix, no way. Forget that. I love it too much. It's my thing. Fair play. If you think about letting go of Netflix as a whole thing, you won't do it. If you make small, subtle changes, over a long time, it will grow. And in terms of replacing a habit, I've found the best way is doing it gradually, not being too harsh on yourself, but doing something that's accessible along the way and slowly growing it. The 15 minutes you give up of Netflix will then turn to 20 minutes. Then you'll give up 25. Then you just need half an hour a day. Then before you know it, you won't even be bothered about Netflix anymore because you're coming to the Gurdwara or whatever else it is, or you go into the gym. You see what I mean? So don't think about changing your habits as this huge burden. Just start with something small and appreciate the small wins. So they left this world and they went to Sachkhand on the 28th of June 1969 after developing a lot of breathing difficulty around 2 a.m. in the morning. And the other interesting thing you find is with the great Mahapurukhs, they're born at Amrit Villa and they passed away at Amrit Villa as well. So if you remember, Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji was born at 2:30 and they passed away at 2:30 as well. It's funny, when I heard this, I tried to ask my mum when I was born and she's like 8 a.m. I was like, oh gosh. I'm just a waste man. And as they started losing their breathing difficulty, they said to the Singhs that I've got no control over my body now. And they were just saying WhyGuru really, really loud and sweating a tremendous amount. And at that point, there were around 35 Singhs around them. And after saying WhyGuru Ji Ka Khalsa, WhyGuru, they're really loud, they said WhyGuru twice and then left their body. And that was at the age of 67. So those are the final moments of Vade Mahapurukh. Again, after still doing extra Kirtan their last day on earth. It's interesting, if we were told it's our last day on earth, what would we spend doing, right? Hopefully, I'd be like one-way ticket to Harmandir Sahib or something, hopefully. But it's interesting how they knew their time was coming, but they didn't let that deter. They didn't go to their family's house to say their final goodbyes. They didn't do a famous speech. They kept it simple and they stuck to their seva. And at that point, their body was taken from Mette to Darbar Sahib for Ishnan. And the body was put on a truck and 100,000 people came out to follow that convoy. And there was a 6-mile long convoy of vehicles that followed from Harmandir Sahib to Kirtpur Sahib where the final rites are done. And Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji themselves did the Kirtan Suhila. The last thing to mention, and then we'll start wrapping up, is their Gurvai, their personal assistant, if you like, who was this Gurmukhi, Bhai Gurmukhi Singh Orissa. They had lived with Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji for a long time. And as the funeral pyre was burning, they jumped into it and set themselves on fire as well. And such was the relationship with Bhai Gurmukhi Singh Orissa that they wanted to leave the world at the same time as Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji. Having served Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji their whole life, they wanted to leave the world at the same time as well. And after that happened, like everyone obviously went crazy, but they'd realized that it was too long, and they literally just saw his body burning in front of them. But even then, he didn't cry or anything, he just sat there. There's a picture actually, quite famous, you can see the star, and he's just sitting there. And even the planning, just his background is amazing. He's from Orissa, and he's from a Hindu family, and he met Vade Mahapurash at Kolkata, and he started coming into Sikhi, and he went back to his family, and his family hated the fact he got into Sikhi, and they were angry, and they were going to cut his case at night. His sister-in-law was quite dharmi, she was quite religious, and she told him, look, here's some money, these are going to they're going to cut your case, you better get out of here. And as soon as that happened, he left home. He literally he abandoned home because his family had turned their back on them. And he went back to the Jatha and said, Mahapur, I've got no family, please become my father. And even then, he did an ardas. He said, Mahapur, I want to give you everything. I want to give you pirta of everything I own in the world. I want to give everything to you and Sikhi now. And what they came with is like 2 kashere, a small box of like kapde and 1 dastar. Now imagine you're saying, I'm going to commit everything. You bring your money, you bring the house keys, you bring everything, right? And the Singhs are looking at him and they're like, that stuff's not even yours anyways, because Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji gave you the dastar and stuff, so what are you actually giving? And when they asked Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji, Mahapur, he didn't even like offer you anything. He said, that's all he had, but he gave me everything. And they said, what is your ardas? And they said, my ardas is to be in your seva my whole life. And at that point, Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji said, you'll be with me till the end then. And they got Singhs to do that ardas. And even whilst the funeral was happening, he was very quiet. No one knew that they went and did a ishnan, they put a new jewel on, they were doing their tiyari. They didn't tell anyone about it. And when the day came, they joined Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji as well. Now obviously we don't, just as a disclaimer, Sikhi doesn't advocate suicide or anything like that. But this is obviously a death of a very different level. Where Bhai Gurmukhi Singh Orissa was obviously of a very high spiritual level, that he wanted to leave this world when Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji did as well. And even then, that wasn't through pain or anything like that. More so a sense of separation. Just finishing off, important things to remember. Whenever the Jatha would travel to a village and Sangat would come and meet them, Sant Giani Singh Ji would always sing the Singhs first, the 50 or 100 Singhs that were there. They would send them into the pind first, so that any gifts that the Sangat had, any hars that the Sangat had, they would be given to the Singhs. Any matiyaiyan, any dastara, they would all be showered to the Singhs first, and then Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji would come in after, once the gifts had been given out. Because they had so much love for the Sangat, they had so much love for the Singhs, that they didn't want the gifts, they want the Singhs to get them. Which again was really, really interesting. A few takeaways, and then I'm going to finish with a small discussion. I mentioned this last week, but Guru Sahib always sends their diamonds when they're needed, and that's a picture of the Sant Samaj at the time of Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji. There's Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji, there's Sant Ishar Singh Ji Rara Sahib Wale, I forgot the Mahapurkh's name. There's a lot of Mahapurkhs, I'm just too uneducated to know who they are. So Maaf karna, huh? This one, right? Hanji, yes. So many Mahapurkhs. And at that time, it's quite turbulent in India, especially when British were under rule. A lot of people were leaving Sikhi. It's interesting, we had like a whole influx, a group of massive Mahapurkhs come, and this regeneration of Sikhi came. We saw a similar thing like in the 80s, all these great Gursikhs came. So let's see who's going to, let's be interesting to see who comes in the future as well with Guru Sahib's Kirpa. And very interestingly, Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji often tells things that in their previous life they learnt a lot about spirituality, a lot of vidya, a lot of knowledge, but in their previous life they never got a chance to share it with the Sangat. And because they had that desire, Guruji sent them again now to go and fulfill that seva. So again, very, very blessed souls that have come with a very different background and come for a specific purpose. So we're lucky to be learning about them and reading about their lives, and Guru's Kirpa taking inspiration from them. in their poti that they wrote, Gurmukhi, they gave, I believe, 225 bhajans. So 225 words of wisdom, if you like, Sant Giani Gurbachan Singh Ji did as like a leaving remark. I've picked out a few that I wanted to share with you all. And I'd like you to spend 2 or 3 minutes, or 5 minutes, or whatever, just having a read of them. And at the end, I'll ask you all if anything stood out in particular as to how we relate that to today's world. And we can open up into a discussion, and then we'll finish off in about 10 minutes if that's okay. And similar to last week, after a break at 8:45, if any Sangat would like to stay for Q&A, if it was helpful, we can do the same thing as well. So hopefully you can all see that. Is it big enough? Probably just about. Otherwise, yeah, take a picture, probably. So I'll let you have 5 minutes just to read and scan through them. These are a few that stood out to me. And then we can open up into a bit of discussion as to what this means for us in our personal lives. I'll like scroll through them a little bit. That's the first half. Everyone ready to move over? Oh, we need another minute? A bit more. Extra time requested. Obviously, there's the English translations, yeah, of the Punjabi. Okay, 30 seconds, I'm going to move it on. Okay. Okay, I'll give it another minute or so. It's nice to see people already discussing it. Okay. Anything stand out to anyone in particular? Hanji? Or anything relate to anyone's life personally or like in today's world?
The medicine one's quite interesting,
Yeah.
Constantly medicine. It's quite
They see just like paracetamol. You broke your leg, have paracetamol, bro. Paracetamol. Yeah, that's big. I'm really like anti-paracetamol. I really try not to. But yeah, it's interesting. Like this stuff didn't exist in Print 50 years ago, right? It was all normal dawaiyan. So yeah.
The second half of that actually resonates. Should not consume food without hunger.
Yeah.
We're all overindulgent, but not just in food, in lots of things.
100%. It's like, yeah, that causes so many pange in terms of how we feel. Obviously, the damage it does to our insides. Me and my wife, we were watching a Diary of a CEO podcast about like fasting and how your stomach, not like Muslim fasting, how your stomach needs time to just reset, and how in today's world, due to snacking, we're just killing our insides constantly, and even eating late. It's interesting the way Guru Sahib's created the world and our day to be. We're just messing it all up. So yeah, it's a good one. Hanji.
I think the first one stood out to me the most, like you can relate to it in this like generation, because in this generation, people like there's loads of fake people out there and like stuff. So with like Maharaj the get one, you don't need to worry. Just focus on yourself. Focus on like studies and stuff. You don't need to worry about anything. Just focus on yourself. And then if like the right people will come to you eventually, like Maharaj will bring them close to you.
100%. I used to say this to the boys at school, especially like, you know, when there was a problem and they didn't want to tell the truth because they didn't want to snitch on their friends. I used to say to them that, look, at the moment, like, especially the year 7s, when you go into year 7, your form class, you think you're going to die with those people. Like, you think like we're all going to get married in the same day, and you think like our kids are going to grow up to you. That's how you think, right? But I tried to, and then like at year 11, people move off. And then you're in sixth form, you think that's it, ride or dies, you know, family. Then you don't even see them guys. Then you go to uni, right, these are my bande. Then you leave uni and you're like, I ain't got a clue who anyone is. You know? And as Benji mentioned, I thought that's interesting. I always tell the students never get it because they have to go through it themselves, you know? But yeah, whoever needs to be around you will end up getting there. That was quite important, especially in a day and age where everyone's trying to like have the most friends, have the most likes, get the most justification and recognition. I guess you can't beat a sense of genuineness. Anyone else? Hanji Benji?
With that one, there's also the same one.
Yeah.
You have a good nature, don't worry about that.
Ha, Hanji.
It's like, you will get, you can't, I think a lot of us wonder why we haven't got certain types of relationships, when actually we're quite like, we can be a bit mean, or we can be like,
Oh, interesting.
Find ourselves, and you're not going to get those. And but you get it in Sangha, the people ask, okay, where is the good Sangha? And it's like, well, good Sangha will come to you when you try to be good, right? Like, we all want to be treated. It's like that whole treat people how you want to be treated, but it does impact the friends that come into your life.
100%. And obviously, you can't beat Sangat and Sikhi Sangat, but even non-Sikhi Sangat can be really helpful as well. At school, there was a Christian guy called James, and like he was so tarmi, like just being around him, I just learned so much about myself and about just being a better Sikh, even though he's a Christian. So I think that's like, and because he was just such a lovely guy, we got on really well. And so I think that's important to understand. Like obviously, the true power is in the Sad Sangat, but you don't ever want to be in a place where you think I'm only ever going to talk to a Sikh, because there's a lot of good to learn from other people. However, obviously there was a limitation with that because we're Sikhs in that sense. Yeah, cool. Badi?
Money, education, Simran, and that things becoming used in difficult times. Interesting job you done.
100%. Yeah, I think sometimes like the money and education in Sikhi, we say, oh, like Shada Pare, just do seva and do Simran. Obviously we should. But at the same time, like even Vade Mahapurash appreciates that, you know, education is actually really important. Having a good education, being well educated and having money, like we should all strive to have a lot of money. And to support that, where's the money one? Money is the servant of a wise person and the boss of a foolish one. So like, even at the Sikhi school we run at Somerset Gurdwara, I'm always like the kids, like, who wants to be a millionaire? We all need to be millionaires. And they're like, yeah, they're proper like Mayatari now. But my point is that it needs to be serving us. not we should be, because the Panth needs rich people. Obviously, Guru Sahib will make X, Y, Z rich. Let's leave the bakshish to the side for a second. Obviously, that's driving it. But money is super important to influence people, to influence things, to influence governments, to buy buildings, to have infrastructure. It doesn't happen without money, whether we like it or not. So that's important as well. Perfect. Anyone else? Yes, Benji.
I think never leave today's work for tomorrow, because God may have other plans for us tomorrow. We may not even wake up.
Hanji.
So we should be grateful when we wake up in the morning and thank God for another day.
100%. Yeah. Who is seen tomorrow, Hannah? There's another one I thought that was quite interesting about like never telling someone off in public. There's a few of those, Hannah, like gupt chija rakhaniya. Even this one, you should keep a parda on your bhajan, your khana and your treasury as well. Yes, Benji?
Just, the never embarrassing someone in public. Like, obviously, with social media, there's a lot of that happening, and I think it's something that's not really being spoken about or called out as actually that's wrong.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to talk to that person, talk to them, sort it out behind closed doors, I think it's kind of doing everyone's business.
100%. We see that in the Panth so much as well. And I think it just talks about our character, because it's easier to put a video of someone on Instagram than it is to actually go and have the confrontation with them. It just shows how weak we've become generally as well, right? And obviously, some cases you do need to put things on social media because you've exhausted every other option. I'm down for that. But very rarely it gets to that, right? And yeah, Apne are the worst at it, especially in Sikhi, unfortunately. Nitnem Singh? Oh, itchy head. ठीक है हाँ Definitely. Yeah, I think especially in Sikhi, like when you get to Seva, you're like, I want to do X, Y, Z, and you get frustrated why things aren't happening. And I guess the longer you're in the game, you realize that actually good things do take a while to happen. Obviously, some things happen instantly, but things shouldn't be rushed. Definitely. I like this one as well. Never forget your mistake until you can rectify it. Hannah, like that's quite. I think that speaks a lot about someone's character and their nature. If you've made a mistake, then that's your mistake. Sort it out. Don't leave it for anyone else. And until you've sorted it out, don't forget it. I thought that was quite big. Benji?
I like how that one holds you accountable and says you can't forget it until you rectify it. It tells you you have to rectify it, but then it also kind of like indirectly tells you that you don't need to hold that mistake close forever.
Yeah.
And barrier and make it a burden. That you are allowed to move on from that.
Once rectified.
Once you've rectified it. And I like that. I like that.
It's progression, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just adding to that whole thing. Guru Sahib does forgive those who want to be forgiven.
Hanji, where the effort is.
It's that fine line between like, just forgive yourself and self-love and like that. But until you do the work and you fix the problem, you can't let go of it. But once you have, then let go of it.
And there's no benefit holding on to it. I
Yeah.
made a mistake 10 years ago, and I'm going to let it damage my Sikhi over things and others.
100%. Cool. Any others from anyone before we wrap up? I like this one as well. I'll finish with this. It takes a gesture to stop a wise person from doing something, but you have to force a foolish person to stop. It's quite telling as well. I like that one. ठीक ji. Chalo. That's the end with Guru's Kirpa and the Sangat Sisa of the talk. I'll just finish off with, if anyone is interested in learning more, Giani Gurbachan Singh has done 2 of 3 parts about Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji's life in way more detail than this. So please do check that out. It's on the Boss TV YouTube page under the Gurmukhi series. And the Gurmukhi series has the lives of Sant Atar Singh Ji, Sant Ishar Singh Ji, a lot of these great Mahapurukhs we've just briefly mentioned, their whole lives and the amazingness within their lives are all there in a lot of depth. So I would recommend, if one of the most important things in Sikhi is to be inspired by the lives of other Gursikhs And that podcast is super, super powerful. So if you're ever feeling a little bit low or unsure of things, I promise you, listen to one of those podcasts and your spirits will be flying again. And also with the Guru's Kirpa, where most of this information has been sourced from is the actual biography of Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji that was written by one of the closest people that was near to them, Giani Singh, who is known as the Likhari, because they would write down everything that happened with Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji. That's now been translated in English, and we've got some copies available here. So you can see Pritam Singh in a second when we break off for the break. I'd highly recommend having a copy and reading it. It's this talk, but amplified by 100 times, with all the details as well. So please do check that out. And we'll finish with a short shabad. And again, for all the mistakes Das would have made whilst talking about great Mahapurukhs like Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji, Sant Atta Singh Ji, Sangat ne Maafi Bakshilani. Please bless us with your ardasa, with your sisa, to continue doing seva and to live up to what we're speaking about as well. And as mentioned, if there's been any offence, then please do forgive. So we'll finish off with the Shabad, the Fateh Balaki. What we'll do is we'll have a 5-minute break until 9 o'clock. If there's any Sangat still around, we can get some paper out and do some Q&As for about 30 minutes or so. I need to go vote, so I need to get back at 10. If you're going to head off, again, thank you. Bhavan, is there something for next week? Bhai Mandeep Singh, amazing. So yeah, and if you're not in the WhatsApp group for the weekly sessions, Bhavan Singh has a QR code, so please scan it on the way out. And if there's been any feedback for me regarding this week and last week, please either let me know, let Bhavan Singh know, whoever, good or improved, please let me know. I'd really appreciate it. Theek hai ji. WhyGuru Sahib Ji, Sandan ki mahama kavan bakhano, agad bodh kich mit nahi jano, par brahm mohe kirpa kija, tur santan ki nanak dija, par brahm mohe kirpa kija, tur santan ki nanak dija. WhyGuru Ji ka Khalsa.